This is Unity, and I'm going to walk through making, well, a Pokemon style menu. Let me show you what I'm talking about, although hopefully you already know you played some Pokemon, right? Some standard retro text, the ability to loop through our options and then select an option. This menu is great for, well, any type of game you're making, variety of applications, anything that needs that classic throwback feel. Before I start this, I want to make sure you know that the assets and the code I am creating are linked in the description. Any asset I use is Creative Commons 0 or public domain. And yeah, they're definitely available for you in the description. So let's go ahead and get going. Right off the bat, I know I need to click on 2D, and I'm just going to title this Pokemon menu video, because then I know it's this project that I'll upload to GitHub and link in the description. So let me go ahead now and click create. And ta-da, here we are. Okay. So for what we should set up right away is for organization purposes, we want a few folders. So we have scenes. Let's go ahead and do sprites. And again, the sprites will be in the description that we're using and that I'm about to load. And then we are also going to want a folder for scripts. And I have a font as well. Good to stay organized and get used to doing so. Okay. And now let's go ahead and import those assets. So I should have my assets, let's see, hiding. Yep, right here. And they are linked in the description. Let's go ahead. I'm going to grab this font I'm going to be using, drop it in there. And then for the sprites, these guys. Boop. And boop. This is just a border. So I do want to go into that a bit before we get going. It really is just this. Okay. And so how I made that, it's going to be used for most of the boxes, or I guess all of the panels that you saw in the intro to this. All I did was go to Paint Guys, and I went and I think I put on grid lines, and you can adjust the size to whatever you're hoping for, but it won't be a huge deal what size this is. And I drew a box on the edges and just made sure it was accurate. I saved this, file save, and then dragged it into Unity. So there's no trick there if you want to make your own fancy border. All right, with those all loaded in, let me zoom out some. Let's go ahead and add, well, let me take a look at game here. Yeah, so the free aspect ratio, let's go ahead and change it to the classic game aspect ratio, right? Of like your Game Boy, which would have been 4:3. So that's already feeling a bit better. And then let's go back to our scene here. Let's drag in a background image. And this is the one I'm using. I actually made this using Blender. And like I've said, it will be linked in the description if you want to use it. Scene, great. So there's our background. That part's easy enough. Background. Perfect. And with that ready to rock, we are going to need a canvas. So let's go ahead and do create and UI canvas. Right here, our event system. Perfect. Now for a canvas, we're actually not going to want it screen space overlay. We're going to want it screen space camera. And then I'm just going to grab our main camera here and drop it in. And then just to make sure the canvas stays in the position that it needs to, I'm going to go ahead and add a few sorting layers. So I might as well add a character one. So characters, and then this will be UI for user interface, because it's our user interface if it's a menu. So let's head back and change that to UI. Scale constant? No, we want scale with screen size, and then 800 by 600 is perfect because it is 4:3. And those are good. We would want this to be expand. There we are. And that is great. So we have our canvas ready to rock. And if we want, we could take a look, double check the top. Yep, our canvas is now ready to rock. So we can start adding panels. So in order to do that, I'm going to right click on the canvas. I could also just have the canvas selected, go up here to game object, go into UI, and drop down to panel. All right. Now we don't want this default background one. We want our own. But actually, before we do that, let me show you something. I'm going to throw this in here. So this is, let's turn down the opacity or up. Okay. So we can have it a little bit transparent maybe. Yeah. All right. So when I'm using this, if I were to change the size, which we're going to need to do for a menu, let me mush it down. Notice my border disappears, and that's not ideal. That would not be what we want to happen. So to prevent that from occurring, let me go over here, and in Sprite View, we're going to pretend like there's multiple sprites for our border. Woohoo, pretending. And we need to head into the Sprite Editor. Yes, apply. Now, in this Sprite Editor, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to slice this. Automatic is fine, sure, slice. We don't really care about that. We just want to get it sliced, click on it, and here's where we do care. We can now set a border. I think mine was roughly 5. And if I set this border, it will be protected even in the event of resizing of the sprite or of the item. Yeah, notice the green lines? That's perfect. So now we can hit apply. And then let me close that out. And now let's go back to our panel here. And we're going to have to update the sprite again since we've changed it up. Okay. And we changed it to 5. But watch. Now if I mush it all the way down, the border stays the exact same size, which is what we are looking for. So great. All right. Now for this, let's do 450. And where do we want it on the right? We would want this 400, right? We would want it halfway over if you think about a Pokemon menu screen for this first panel. And this first panel I titled Main Info Panel, just so I can keep track of it and we're super clear on what it really is and what's it doing. Okay, with that, I'm now going to add some text to this panel. Oh, it didn't stick, of course not. Okay, with that, let's add some text. So game object, UI, text, and here we are. This text I titled, here we are. I'm very creative, main info text. So, and then let's see what we're going to put in here. Notice it's up here. That's fine at the moment. What will you do? In Pokemon, it said something like your next action, or gosh, I wish I remembered the exact phrase for battle. I'll have to look that up. Regardless, text would appear here next to the standard menu, and that's exactly what we're making happen now. So I am going to resize this. We don't need it to be tiny. And yeah, that's looking good. So my text will be 350 by 100. And then the X position will be 0.6 is good. Y is 6.7. Now let me go ahead and, well, this is way too small. I don't know, 55, way too big. Let's actually load in our font first. Let me drag that in. Boom. Give it more of a classic feel. Let's try 18. Oh, that's already looking better. Okay. And we can have it centered if we want, right? Or centered. What will you do? Perfect. And that's actually our first panel, right? There's just the option or the bit of an explanation over on this side that we can have the ability to change, we will have access to. Now for the menu, let's go ahead and duplicate this. Main info panel is going to now be main menu. Okay. And main menu will need to start 0, but from left 400. Okay. And something else that will be different about our main menu is it is going to have a grid layout group. And in that grid layout group, we need to space out our items and to change up the font size. So let's start by getting this font down to something like 14 is going to be a better fit. Oh, wait a minute, I'm lying. This menu, you got to be able to see it, right? So the top option on this will be fight because, well, Pokemon. Fight. And I'm going to call this, even though it's not a button, right? I am going to call it fight BTN. And then let's go ahead and duplicate that. And what was the next option? Pop quiz, bag, BTN, and bag, and duplicate that. Pokemon. Oh, I don't want to. Although they usually didn't even say Pokemon, it said like PKMN, but we're going to be fancy. Pokemon is next, and then duplicate. Finally, we had the weak option, run btn. And great. Now what we want to change to make this look a lot better is the grid situation. So first off, padding. I'm going to want 20 by 20 by 20 by 20. Now for the cell size, with how big of an area we have, I'm going to want 180. And then the height, though, we can pack them in for Y. So 50 should be great. And then I do want a little bit of a separation for spacing. So 1 and 1 it is. Oh, that just threw them off. 179. We'll be fine. Let's take a look at game real quick. Perfect. Now, if you do not want lines to be doubled up like this, what we can do, if you wanted it to look like a single line instead of two double borders, which is what is occurring. To do that, we would need, instead of doing right 403, I'm going to do right 397 on that guy. And then on the main menu, instead of doing left 400, I'm going to do left 397. And that should thin up, oh, I switched these two. That should thin up that line to a more reasonable level. And you can play with it. Maybe you like 398. Regardless, that's what will take care of that. So back to our text. We want our text, though, to be on the left aligned, because that is definitely what the old school games did. So left aligned for bag, left aligned for Pokemon, and left aligned for run. The other thing, let's give this font a little bit of a boost. Menu buttons, you want large. All right, so that's looking awesome for our menu. Let's keep going now. So what happened after you made a selection on the menu? For example, like I usually would do, regardless of my team's health, I would click fight. So let's duplicate this menu, our main menu, and now this will be titled moves menu, because you'll get a selection of moves if you select fight. Okay, let's now also hide this and hide this guy. And then our moves menu is going to need to be on the other side here. So left will be 0. And if you recall, there was a info area right here with moves that listed things like the Pokemon's power and type. So let's say 250 for that. Yeah, that should be sufficient. Now, that's all good. That's looking fine. We're probably going to want to spread this out. So maybe 200 for X. 250. 250 is looking better. And then for this, I'm just going to call these move 1 BTN. These weren't capitalized, by the way. Move 1. If you can recall particular moves off the top of your head, 1, I'm impressed. 2, feel free to put them in. Move 2 BTN. Move 3 BTN. Okay, so there are our moves ready to rock. And now we want that small panel that contains that information. So let's go ahead and duplicate. And I'm now going to say move info panel, because this panel didn't have options for the user to select. So I like to keep those clearly defined as separate. And now for this one, we want, instead of 250 to the right, 0, we are going to want, nope, that's fine, left 550. Should do it. And again, if we want to cut back a bit on the border here, maybe I'll do 547, something like that. Okay. And for what text appeared here? Well, you're going to want something like, I'll call that label. Maybe I'll just call it text, PPP text. And PP stood for PowerPoints, not PowerPoint, PowerPoints. How many points it took to perform that move. So this will just be PP capitalized, definitely not 20 over here, too small of a space, definitely not 14 though. 16 is looking great, and then we aren't going to need a 4. We will need this. This is going to be the actual number, so PP num. And this would have looked something like, I don't know, 18 out of 20. Let's toy with the grid because it's not happy right now. Definitely not 250. 100 is great. And then the move 3 now needs to be adjusted. Let's put that also at 16. And instead of saying move 3, we would need type text. And depending on the edition that you were playing, earlier editions had type and then a backslash. And we'll say it's of the dark type. Oh, let's take a look at what's happening here. Understood. Just going to turn that on to overflow, and that will look great. Okay, now with that set up, we want to do the health panels. So I'm going to choose to take this guy and just duplicate that. I'll call this one player health panel. And then this is the first one that we don't want to be so far down. Let's try 350. You know, we need it more, maybe a smidge more here. That's looking all right. And let's do that. And that. That is definitely looking better. And then contained within this would have been the Pokemon's name, so not PP, but name. Let's do a 14 for this. Okay, because the largest thing in this panel, let's also, this isn't going to have a grid. The largest thing would have been the player's health. Remove component, so, or the Pokemon's health. Name is good. Name text. And then this would have been the Pokemon's level, so LV text, or here, LV text, and we'll say we're at level 1. It's an entry level Pokemon. All right, and then type. Type would have actually been the amount of health the player currently had. So I'm going to give us full health. All right, and now let's say, I'm going to call that health num. Let's make some adjustments, and then we have one more text item to be adding. And this doesn't need to be 50, so let's throw that down to 40. That is fine. We do need this up. Perfect. 60 and negative 22. Negative 21 it is. So that means this will be... And make sure that you adjust this so that it's right aligned, because as the level grows, you want to make sure you have space for that. 220 is looking good to me. And then health. I'll throw this at... And same thing here, we're going to go ahead and do a right aligned on this. Now, the one other thing we're going to need is for name, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate it. And I'm just going to say HP text. And this will just say HP. Drag it down right about there. And in just a smudge right there. Yep. And the health bar. So for the health bar, we are going to go ahead and right click on this. And we're going to add UI image. The default image is, it's nothing, which is fine. We're going to go ahead and click here, and we're going to click here. There we go. And I'm going to scroll all the way down. We want UI Sprite. Great. Now the color for this is going to be black, almost black-ish. And then we want to mush it, the technical term there. Yeah, let's see what we got. Width will be 100, height will be 25, and width is actually gonna be 200. Drag it out more. Width is actually gonna be 220. Great, and I want this darker. So, now this is gonna be health back, okay? And click off. Oh, of course. Health back, and then I'm going to duplicate this and do health front. Boom. Now the difference between health back and front is the color. Something like a limey greenish. And now, if wanting to, you could use any bar on your menu to do something like that. Pretty neat. Let's put it back. Okay. And that's the appearance. So now we do have a menu built out. Oh, of course, enemy. To do the enemy health panel, I just duplicate, and then I grab it. And I go ahead and drag up. Let me scroll out and over, and somewhere over here. And I can, of course, rename this accordingly. And just to keep it clear, I'm just going to put the word enemy here. All right. So again, now we have the basics of our menu laid out, but we don't have the functionality as of yet. So that dives into code. Thankfully, it's just one script we're going to need. It can all be contained within the single script. So that being said, let's go ahead. I'm going to tie this script to the adjustments are mainly going to be made to the canvas. So I'm going to tie the script to the canvas. I'm going to click on canvas and I'm going to say add component. And I'm going to say menu manager. Cool. And create. Okay, let's go find that script. It's going to be somewhere in assets and pull it into scripts. Enter that. Oh, did I put it in sprites? Oh, I put all my characters. Oh, of course I did. I'm just gonna get these over into here. Okay, a little technical difficulties. Now let's open this up. Quacha, a beautiful empty script. Let me go ahead and shrink this guy down. And I'm gonna pull it over and click. Shrink this down. There we are. Oh, I can close that up. Okay, for the script. We want to be able to have an interactive menu with our script. So I'm going to get rid of these comments that drive me nuts. We will be using both these functions, but first we need to grab a ton of the content we've just created. So what we're going to be needing, I can tell you right off the bat, we're going to need Unity Engine UI because we are using and messing with the user interface of Unity. So let's put that up here. Whoa. So Unity Engine UI is up there now, and let's start declaring stuff. We need a public. Well, we need a lot of public. So what I'm running through now is getting declared the game objects for some of the panels and the menus, and then we're going to use an array to store the actual buttons, right? Move 1, move 2, move 3, fight, bag, Pokemon. We'll use an array to store those options, and you'll see why that is later. Okay, let's see what's public. Oh, probably need a space. All right, and keep in mind, everything that is public is something, well, here, let me show you. We can access within Unity itself. So I'm going to head over here. I'm going to head to Canvas, which is where I tie this to. And here's all my, I'm just going to hide all this, info that I want. So main info panel, we helpfully named main info panel. Okay, main menu text, main menu, boom, main menu. Main info text, main info text. The arrays though, okay? For the arrays, the reason we're going to be using arrays is it's really nice to be able to loop through the selection menu for the user. And an array is perfect for that. So let me show you what I mean. How many main menu options are there? Well, let's bring up our main menu real quick. Okay, and hide our moves and hide our moves info. Might as well bring up main panel as well. All right, click back here. How many main options are there? Well, there is 4. Okay, and now we have them right here. So let me drag them out. We have a fight option, bag option, Pokemon button, and a run button. And now we'll be able to use an array and just loop through those options with the users. And I'll show you what I mean in just a second. Let's also get the moves info panel, which is this. And then what is move options? Let's see here. We forgot. There's supposed to be move options here as well. So move info is the information about the move, like the power and stuff. And then move menu is what we need. And well, that's the menu where we select the move we want. There we are. Let's save that. Okay, moves info panel, moves info text, and the info has, because we're going to be updating these frequently, I went ahead and also I went ahead and also used a variable for those. So there's 3 options here. And we can hide that. Moves menu, or leave it open just in case, moves menu is here. And then the options, we have 4, and they were our 4 moves. And great. Now let's take a look at the few other things we're going to need. For the health menu, I'm going to take a bit of a different approach. Right now I'm making a header player health, and that will appear in the inspect panel of Unity. And then we're just going to have public text, poke a name, poke a level, poke HP, and all of that. So I'm naming each variable individually. And this is a technique that is commonly used. It would change up our switch statements and our menu options. But here we are in Unity. Notice it in the info panel. Some people prefer this method, and I just want to kind of present it to you and make you aware of it. And again, this is a bit different. This is a different way of doing things. I didn't use an array, right? I put in a header into my menu directly for clarity's sake, and I'm naming each variable. I'm naming each of these text elements or game objects directly for access within the code. So you could also do this within menus, although I have found it faster for these types of menus that users will scroll or iterate through to use an array. Regardless, this is also an option, so I wanted to show it to you. Player health, let's see. Not enemy, but, there we are. Player health panel. Pokemon name text. Level text. Health number. And these other things I ignored because we actually don't edit them. Okay, so with that all being displayed, I'm not grabbing... Oh, never mind, I'm grabbing everything. Okay, with that all being set to go, let's dive into some of the code here. First off, we need to know where the user's cursor would be, right? That little blinking thing that tells them what they're looking at, the classic greater than cursor sign. And how we're going to do that, I'm going to declare this public just so we can see it, but I'm going to make a variable called cursor location is equal to 0 to start, right? And then I need another few variables. I'm going to make these private, meaning we won't see them within Unity itself, only within code. Text current options, and these current options will be the array of current menu options where the user is located. Private. And that will be the information panel that's currently displayed. Like, what will you do? That's an info panel. There's no actual button or clickable or selectable options. And the menu panel. With the variables ready to rock, let's get going on some of the functionality of the application. So let me just get rid of this extra space. And first is start. So what we want to have happen here is we want the current options to go ahead and be loaded. And what will they be? Well, on start, the current options are going to be called all are the main menu options. And again, what is that? Well, main menu options is an array of this content. So main menu options right here. Okay, so we're going to load that into our current options variable right there. And then what do we need? We want to know the info panel. And so we're going to load that in to be the main info panel. And then we want to know the menu panel that's currently open. And what would that be? Well, it's going to be the main menu. And finally, we would want to call a script to load in our cursor. And by script, of course, I mean function, but we have to write that function. So let's keep going and get back to that function call in a second. Let's get on to update. So what we're going to be doing in update is the iterating of the cursor location. And what I mean by that is first, let's check if the user is pressing on any of their keys. For now, let's just use the key code right and left. You can also use up and down, especially in the early days of Pokemon, back in, the 90s and the original Game Boy. Now I'm dating myself. The selection process was a bit tedious. So we're going to use right and left for now. And what do we want to check? If cursor location is less than 3. And why is less than 3? Because we're going to be adding to it. So cursor location plus plus. Plus plus is, we're going to say cursor location equals cursor location plus 1. And remember, what these are, this cursor location is an index value. It's saying, canvas, it is 0, 1, 2, 3. So if it's a 3, it's on run button, right? That's where the cursor is located. So we're checking as long as it's less than 3, because if it's not less than 3, then it must be at run. And we don't want to add to it. It would be off the screen. Where would the cursor go? But if it is less than 3 and they smash down on the right arrow key, we'll let the cursor move. Now, by that same token, if input get key down. Now let's, for the left arrow, check if cursor location is greater than 0, because index in code and programming always start, well, almost always, there's a few weird languages, start at 0. This is element 0, so fight is 0. So as long as it's greater than 0, right? Because if it's at 0, we don't want them to be able to change the cursor to be below 0. We can go ahead and do cursor, nope, not that one. Cursor location minus minus. Now I'm going to use minus minus this time. It is the same thing as saying cursor equals cursor minus 1, right? Or up here I could have done cursor plus plus would be the same. Not as minus minus, cursor plus plus would be the same as this. All right, so now we are adding or subtracting to the cursor's location. But who cares? We can't see it. And that is true. So let's make it so we can see it. And to do that, we need to add a function down here. And I'm going to call this void navigate menu. And let's go ahead and just start off with current options. And what is the current options? Oh yeah, that's the array we set equal at the beginning to the location the user's at. The main menu is where they start, but we're going to have that change as they go through menus, navigate through menus. Cursor location. So the main menu option, cursor location. So cursor location is equal to 0 at first. Then if I move right, then it's equal to 1. So what I'm saying is grab the main menu option, the current menu, and if they're at 0, well, maybe then it would be the bag button. And what are we going to do? We're going to grab the text of that, not just the value itself, the text of it, and we're going to put the greater than sign and a space to give it the traditional Pokemon style. And then what are we going to do? Current options. And then what do we do? Well, what we're doing here is we're adding a plus to the current option cursor location text. So to the text that's already there, right? We grab this thing and we say what text, this text is now equal to the text it was already equal to plus a carry item. So let's go ahead and run navigate menu. And then we'll also add it to on start in a second, but let's test this out. And it does take over all of them. But that's actually as expected because we're not clearing the cursor out right now. So we have some progress and we have some progress to go. We don't want to always navigate. We only want to navigate when the cursor is being moved. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that and put it here. And that's already going to make a difference. Notice though it stays. So that's a problem. So how can we how can we fix that situation? Well, we want to have it be cleared out. I also noticed that the font was looking strange. We are going to need to decrease the font size, I believe, to give room for the giant Pokemon word to function with a cursor next to it. Okay, so let's now add something that will allow the selection to change, meaning it clears out the cursor as the user moves through. And I am very creative with naming functions in line. I'm going to add a clear selection function. There we are. And what we need here, just for clarity's sake, I'm going to use a string called first2, and then I'm going to use a string called temp str, which would be a temporary string. Now let's use a for loop. For int y is equal to 0. So what this is doing is I'm grabbing our current options, and again, what are current options? It is the options that are listed in the menu that we assign up here. To start with, they're the main menu options. The main menu options, just like it says within our canvas here, are fight button, bag button, Pokemon button, so on and so forth. So first off, I'm going to loop through them. I'm asking how long is that array? Okay, well, it will be 4. And so we're going to start at 0, which is the first index. It's indexed at 0, and we're going to add 1 each time. Now, while we are looping through them, I'm going to use my first string here. First 2 is going to be equal to the current options I, so the index, wherever we are currently at, dot text dot substring 0, 2. I'm just grabbing the first 2 characters of each option as I loop. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to clear off the cursor that we added. So if first 2 is equal to, boom, right? Because that's what we're adding to it. What do I want to do? Well, then I'm going to use my temp string that I just made and set it equal to current options I.text, so the index that we're at right now, and then current options I.text would be equal to, and I guess I didn't save a ton of repeating myself, but oh well, oh no I did, the temp string dot substring to temp string dot length -2. Okay, so what's happening? I check to see if the first 2 characters are this. If so, I drop into this. I set my temporary string equal to the current index's text value. I then say, okay, the new text value for that index is equal to the temporary string I just made. The substring, what characters do I want from my string? What am I ripping from this? I'm taking it from index 2. So index 0 would be the greater than sign, index 1 would be the space, and index 2 would be the start of everything else. And I'm going all the way to the end, temp string.length. However, I need to account for the 2 that I am already taking off from the beginning. So I subtract 2. That will put the string, the text, the menu item back to normal. It will take away the cursor from it. So that's what this is accomplishing. It's clearing that selection. So where would I do this? Well, I would want to do this in my navigate function. Clear selection. I want to clear out the old before moving the cursor around, right? I'm going to hit save and let's test this. And it's working. Notice though, when we start, the cursor's not there. So to do that, I need to call it here and start, right? What grabs our cursor and slaps it on there? Navigate menu. So navigate menu it is. Boom. Also notice, let me hit save, I can make our cursor go bye-bye. So there it is at start. I'm going to hit over. Oh, maybe I can't. Did we put in less than? Oh, yes. Never mind. We are good to go on that front. As a failsafe, though, to prevent errors which can occur, especially with the variability of how update's going to run, I'm going to use an if cursor location is less than 0, right? Because that's not good. We have an index here. And our index starts at 0, so we can't have it be less than 0. Or if the location is greater than 3, which again, that's not good, we can't have that, I'm just going to set it to 0. Just in case it's kind of it's protecting us from potential errors. All right, so now that should set us up for navigation at least. So the last step then is, well, selection. If we can navigate, we want our menu to also be able to be used for selection. To do that, I'm going to once again pick a creative name for my function that will be called void on selection. Boop, boop, boop. There we are. Let me scroll up so we can see this. So void on selection. First, we're going to make sure if someone has hit enter, if someone has selected an item, we need to clear off that menu before we get rid of it. So we're going to do clear selection, meaning the cursor. We want the text to be returned to its original state. So we're going to clear their selection, and then if menu panel is equal to main menu, and this is important, right? Because depending on the menu that they are currently on, a selection of 1 or 0 or 3, wherever their point is in the array, is going to produce a different result. So first we're going to say if they're on the main menu, and just to kind of further clarify, else if, what if they were our menu panel was equal to the moves menu, right? Because there's going to be a different reaction, a different course of events that takes place if they are hitting enter on 0 on the moves menu, which would be move 1, as opposed to 0 on the main menu, which is fight. So first we're going to check for their menu location, and now we're actually going to be using a switch statement, which is perfect for this. So switch cursor location, and within our switch then, we're going to of course have a case 0, and I'm going to do break case 1, break case 2, break, and case 3. Break. Okay. So before I get going on that though, I'm going to now just copy this, Control C or Command or right click, copy, and then paste. Because we will use this same structure down here on the moves menu. For the switch statement, case 0 is fight. So what we would need here is main menu.game object. So what this is going to be doing, right? First we have main menu game object set active false, right? We don't want the main menu to be present. Just like if we deactivate something here, goodbye canvas, there goes all the content. Or main menu, goodbye, there it goes. So we're setting it not to be active, false, just like unchecking it. Same with main menu info. Then we're setting game object, or we're setting moves menu to be active, and we're setting moves info panel to be active. We're then taking the current options and setting that equal to the moves options. What's moves options? Well, I can show you. We picked it, right? So move options, it's a 4-length array, and it's button 1, move button 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on. Moves panel, menu panel is now the moves menu. Okay, and then we could do something similar for bag, right? Whatever we want to have pop up, maybe a different menu, so on and so forth. And same down here, menu panel moves. When they case 1, maybe you want to animate a Pokemon shooting, something like that, right? But this is the layout of the menu. It's kind of copy and paste from here. What you do want to make sure you do is cursor location. We want to reset that to 0, right? When they reach a new menu, we should reset the cursor, and then we should run navigate menu so it is placed. Okay. So let's go ahead and give that a shot. So on the event, oh, nope, let's not. We still need to, on update, we want if, I'm going to use enter for the input key. So input.get key down key code return. Yep. So if return is pressed, what do we want to have happen? We just need on selection to run. So if it's pressed, we want on selection to execute. Let's give this a try. So navigation still works, and now enter. Boom. And look, our menu here is already working too. We would just need to add some components to it. Awesome. So for fun, and really I'm going to do this for fun, I'm going to throw in some sprites here. Let me shrink down canvas. This is going to be my Pokemon. And sorting layer character. Wow. And these are UI CC0 as well. Dino. Okay, I'm going to say poke 1. Enemy poke. And I've got to hide you. And I'm going to hide you. Now we just need to get variables added into the code so we can access these Pokemon, poke 1, enemy poke, in the inspect window of Unity. And they should pop up. Oh yeah, here they are. And here we are. Poke 1. Just to kind of give you some ideas of what you can do with this and how easy it is to throw stuff in here. So I set them to be not active, right? And now, just down here, just like I did with this other stuff, I'm going to do poke 1 dot game object dot set. And then I'm going to do the same thing. Because if we're fighting, maybe our Pokemon should pop up. Safe. Boom. And now we have a fancy, very fancy Pokemon menu for our enjoyment. And really, this can be used in any application you want, any game you want. And all of the assets, again, are linked in the description. All of them are completely open source. Take a look at the code, make something awesome. If you do make something awesome, make sure to tell me about it in the description or in the comments, or if you have an issue or a question, please also ask in the comments. Also, if you're still watching this, make sure to hit like, make sure to hit subscribe. It gives me warm fuzzies. It makes the world a better place and all of that. I bet move 3 is really powerful.